The Lakers have ice in their veins, and after last night's performance, maybe rocks in their heads. Ty Lue said the Clippers hugged it out before the playoffs, and Chris Klein tells the Galaxy season ticket holders that he'll quit if certain conditions are met. Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. Man, I gotta tell you, the less said about that Laker game last night, the better, even though they won. But we gotta break it down a little bit. It is April 12th, 2023. Still in Portland for a day, whatever. If you like the content we put out about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment, particularly about the Lakers. I'm not that confident about them as I used to be, honestly. It took them overtime to knock off a depleted Minnesota squad 108-102. Now, LeBron James showed up. 30 points, 10 rebounds. The Lakers will advance to play Memphis in a series starting on Sunday. Don't get me wrong. I like the odds against the Grizzlies. We'll break a little bit more about that right now, actually. The reason the Lakers won last night, in my arrogant little opinion, is because Minnesota has a profound habit of choking away double-digit leads. Last night, they did it for the 19th time this season. So that wasn't about Lakers' excellence. Oh, sure, Dennis Schroeder sinks a three-pointer with 1.4 seconds to go, and both he and LeBron are doing this. Oh, we got ice in our veins. And then Anthony Davis commits a foul on a three-point attempt, which allowed a free throw sharpshooter 3 free throws, which he connects on. The game goes to overtime. It was just a bad look for the Lakers. They should have put their foot on that team's throat. The team was missing Rudy Gobert. The team was missing 2 starters overall. And the T-Wolves took them to overtime. We'll see how that plays out starting on Sunday. Elsewhere last night, the Dodgers got shut out for the first time this season. San Francisco got them 5-0. LAFC have advanced to the CONCACAF Champions League semifinals. Carlos Vela scored twice. LAFC defeats Vancouver 3-0. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are at San Francisco at 6:45. Clayton Kershaw, 1-1 with a 3.75 ERA versus Alex Cobb, who is 0-1 with a 2.53 ERA. So, aside from the Lakers, there's the Clippers in the playoffs. We have a tendency to forget about them after all. There's so much drama going around with the purple and gold no matter what. But the Clippers had some drama on their own. There was a shoving match in the timeout huddle during a game in Phoenix on Sunday. Coach Tyronn Lue said Mason Plumlee and Bones Highland hugged it out. Call it Timberwolves light, if you will, seeing as how the Clippers shoved each other a little bit and the Timberwolves threw actual punches. Quote, they worked it out. Everything's good, Lue said. Now, the playoff series versus the Suns also opens on a Sunday. Also for the Clippers, there is still no timeline for Paul George's return. We know he is out for Game 1. After that, how long? No idea. Now, just before everybody got in their cars to go home, Chris Klein fired off a letter, an email, to LA Galaxy season ticket holders saying that if the team doesn't meet certain criteria, he will resign as team president at the end of the season. And this letter was met with a cold shoulder by Galaxy supporters, and I can't say that I blame them. I just can't. Because we've been talking about at length all season long about the fan boycott that came about with Klein retaining his job. Klein's been there for 10 years. The Galaxy have slid. The soccer has been mediocre at best. And then there was a cheating scandal. The Galaxy thought the boycott was a bluff. Obviously, that turned out not to be the case. They did not comprehend just how angry the fan base actually is. So you're sitting there at first blush thinking, hey, Chris Klein's finally taking responsibility. Then you actually read the letter and you see what the criteria are. Qualifying for the playoffs and advancing in the playoffs. You don't think after 10 years of this slop that Galaxy fans haven't figured this out yet? You don't think they've heard this before? Oh, we're all going to take accountability and nobody does? First of all, the Galaxy team last year qualified for the playoffs and advanced out of one round. So what exactly does advancing mean? Do they have to go more than one round? Do they just qualify for the playoffs as the 9th seed where you face the 8th seed in MLS Cup's weird playoff thing? You beat the 8th seeded team and that saves Chris Klein's job? And by the way, MLS added teams to the playoffs this year. So the criteria to reach the playoffs became just that much wider before Chris Klein made this alleged sacrifice, this alleged wager of his own career. So no, the Galaxy fans saw through this and they became emboldened. All through social media yesterday, to them, they see that letter not as Chris Klein putting up or shutting up. They see this letter as a confession that the franchise still has no infrastructure, still has no scouting, still has no analytics, still has no team vision, still has nothing to go for it other than history on 5 MLS Cups. They see a confession that the Galaxy have taken their fans for granted. So the fans' response about the boycott? Hold the line. And if they do hold the line, maybe, just maybe, Chris Klein will be out before the end of the year. Let me know what you think about that in the comments thread. I don't delve too deeply into mock drafts. They're all wrong, wouldn't you say? Maybe the first couple of picks, but after that, everything goes to hell. But what I can give you is an idea of what the Rams might be thinking. Not who they will take, but who they might take. Considering their drafting history and considering what they probably are looking for. The Rams drafted pick 36. Now that is their highest draft pick since 2016. And by the way, that's second round, which means the Rams haven't been in the first round since 2016 either. Now, when you're at 36, you can't expect an eye-popping big name there. What the Rams need are immediate contributors and depth. All right? I think we could agree on that. But they have way too many holes in their roster to think depth at pick 36. So, you may not get a big name out of college, but who can make an impact where you need it? Well, the Rams need pass rushing and they need better cornerbacks. So that is one train of thought. Here is the second train of thought. Who believes Sean McVay doesn't cherish offensive skill over everything else? Sean McVay is an offensive coach. You put a gun to his head, not that I'd recommend it, he's probably thinking offense first. So if your offensive skill, they're not going to go with offensive line because they need an immediate contributor. Rams offensive line draft picks do not play in the first year. Logan Bruss, last year's top pick in round 3, he wouldn't have played for the Rams last year even if he didn't get injured. McVay wants them to learn the blocking schemes and just have it down in their heads completely before they start to play. So no, they'll have no intention of drafting an offensive lineman, I believe. Rookie linemen will have to wait. They're also not going to be drafting a quarterback in round 2. Why would you draft a quarterback? He's not going to contribute immediately when you have Matthew Stafford. So then you're sitting there going, that leaves wide receiver, possibly running back. So if you put it all together, who would the Rams take at pick 36? I would say in descending order, depending on what's available. Edge rusher, cornerback, tight end, or wide receiver. And then maybe come back in the 3rd round to give Cam Akers some competition with a running back. And speaking of running backs in the 3rd round, if you might be saying, wait a second, James, that sounds like they might be looking at Zach Charbonnet of UCLA. Yeah, that wouldn't be that big of a surprise to me either if that turns out to be the case. Former Trojans point guard Reese Dixon Waters, the Pac-12 Sixth Man of the Year, is being wooed by San Diego State, which went to the Final Four last year. He's being talked about with 7 schools overall, according to the San Diego Union Tribune. But San Diego State, the Final Four, who reached the Final Four, they're the big guys. You know who else is in the alleged conversation? The alleged conversation? UCLA. That would be a hell of a move. Dixon Waters, by the way, averaged 9.6 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game. He is primarily known for his perimeter defense. He said he hopes to make a decision on which school he wants to go to by the end of the semester at USC. USC semester ends May 10th. Sports Illustrated is reporting that Dorian Thompson-Robinson and the Bengals had a little bit of a chit-chat. Now, Cincinnati's backup, you might be saying, wait a second, they're set with Joe Burrow. True, but this is where Thompson-Robinson comes into play. The current backup over at Cincinnati is Brandon Allen, who is unsigned. Joe Burrow, yes, due for a massive payday because he's coming towards the end of his rookie contract. Just like we've been talking about Justin Herbert, just like we've been talking about Jalen Hurts, just like we've been talking about Tua Tagovailoa. Those 3 plus Burrow, all 4 of them are due for massive pay hikes. So you don't want to re-sign veteran quarterbacks because they don't come cheap. But what you could theoretically do is draft Thompson-Robinson in a mid to late round, give him a low-level rookie deal, and have that much more money left over to pay off Joe Burrow. There was a blog post titled, quote, 4 Dodgers offseason additions we should already be concerned about, unquote. Really? Really? The season isn't even 2 weeks old. Really? We're supposed to be getting our boxers in a bunch over this? Noah Syndergaard? Really? Okay, granted, he stunk up the joint in Arizona, but he had a terrific debut in LA. So we're really thinking about already being panicky over that guy? Alex Reyes, reliever, hasn't pitched yet. So what are we concerned about? It's been 2 weeks. This is a 26-week regular season. You have to savor the long-term storytelling of a baseball season. I mean, you think about it. Max Muncy, who, by the way, was not on that list just a couple of days ago, baseball scribes were saying, oh my God, Max Muncy, let's be panicked about him. And then Muncy goes out 2 nights ago in San Francisco and slugs 2 home runs with 7 RBIs. It is way too early to talk about who we should be worrying and panicking over. Stop it. Mikey Anderson returned to play for the Kings on Monday night, and voila, instant shutout. Now, people will have noticed how effective Mikey Anderson really is. I mean, Drew Doughty has had the lengthy career. He's the Hall of Famer. But don't sleep on Mikey Anderson for his responsible play. The Athletic listed him as one of 8 players who could break out during the Stanley Cup playoffs. After all, he is matched up with Drew Doughty. They have combined for 1,227 minutes together on ice. That is second of any defensive pairing in the league. With Anderson on the ice, you get the other team will get the shots. They'll get shots off, but the other team gets the shots off at really bad angles, which allows the goalie to be in position and just stand there like a wall, absorb the puck, and the game goes on. Mikey Anderson excels at forcing you into taking bad shots. Now, if he can do that versus, say, Edmonton, that's going to define his career arc, not just in the short term, but long term. Mikey Anderson has a shot to make a big name for himself in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's give a little optimism about the Lakers before we take off. Where would you rank Jared Vanderbilt among the Lakers' acquisitions at the trade deadline? Fair question. Number 2, maybe behind D'Angelo Russell, but D'Angelo Russell has been hurt. You might even be so bold as to claim that Vanderbilt's been the best Laker acquisition. There is a name that has been thrown around about him for the last couple of weeks to describe his play. Dennis Rodman. And I didn't necessarily consider that because, of course, we all remember Dennis for Rodman for his late career stuff, the gender bending, the trips to North Korea, stuff like that. And Vanderbilt doesn't strike you as a guy who's a little bit off his rocker. But Vanderbilt was injured back in the day when he was playing college ball at Kentucky. He was once a 5-star recruit, but the injury forced him to lose playing time. And to get back on the court, Coach John Calipari suggested to be an energy guy, and more than an energy guy, quote, go be Dennis Rodman, unquote. And now NBA players, they look at Vanderbilt and they drop Dennis Rodman's name to describe Vanderbilt for his relentless hustle. Now, before Vanderbilt arrived, LA had like the 20th defensive rating in the NBA. Now, LA is one of the top defensive teams. Consider that it took overtime for Minnesota last night just to get to 102 points. Now, obviously, the player that he did not model his game after was Rodman. He didn't want to do that, but he had to. It was absolutely necessary. And now he sees the wisdom in that change. Quote, real basketball players, they don't understand that value of the game, he said. So Vanderbilt, the tough rebounding, the edgy defense, and because of that, arguably the best addition to the Lakers roster at the trade deadline. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Were you emboldened or saddened by that Lakers victory last night for the long-term effects? Do you think the Clippers are in fine fettle for the playoffs? And do you actually think that letter from Chris Klein was a significant change in approach with the LA Galaxy? And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.